Alright guys, we're back. Today I'm doing something a little different. I'll be talking about Amazon here and how they're mandating everyone to return to the office 5 days a week. So previously they've had a mandate where you would need to come to the office 3 times a week. Now they've bumped it up to 5 times a week. And I've read a number of articles on this, and the CEO Andy Jassy's, he has made this request, and based on the articles that I've read, he hasn't provided any sort of, data fact-driven reasoning as to why he wants employees to return to the office 5 times a week. He just used the typical corporate, cliche. The basically used the what's the word? He used the corporate platitudes, essentially. Things like collaborating, brainstorming, and inventing are simpler and more effective. Teams need to be connected better to each other. So if he uses, typical, nonsense like that, uh, what I want to say here is that 3 days in the office, you could make a number of compelling arguments saying that, okay, if you come to the office, the group, the organization, people as a whole are able to collaborate more effectively. And, you could make that argument, and I'll buy that argument, and you can back it up by facts and, data and so on. Uh, but my issue here is that they've already, they had a mandate asking their employees and requiring their employees to come to the office 3 times a week, as opposed to 5 times a week, which is, to me, that's a fair request to make. You know, you could, I could see how an organization would be productive if employees came to the office 3 times a week. If they saw each other more often. But when you're asking them to come to the office 5 times a week, that's a bit absurd. That goes from, um, you know, the whole argument of productivity goes down the drain because, you're getting now diminishing results. You're getting diminishing returns on this objective that you have here. It almost seems very sadistic and controlling and very greedy. It's a very greedy move to make, because 3 times a week, I think that's enough. You should, give your employees a little bit of, a wiggle room, right? Because you come to the office 3 times a week, you talk to your employees, you go to you talk to your coworkers, you go to your meetings, and then you can spend 2 times a week working, focusing, actually being focused and getting real work done, and you're not distracted by your colleagues, you're not distracted by your commute, you're not exhausted, burned out by your commute. You can just wake up and, get to work and be relaxed at home. But now that you have to go to the office 5 times a week, you're going to be exhausted and burned out throughout the week and constantly. And the thing about work, one thing I want to say is that work is something that you spend most of your life doing. As a human being living in a civilized modern society, you will spend most of your time at work. And you cannot have a job, you can't have a career that is burning you out, because it's something that you're doing always. It's not something that you're spending 10% of your time on, 30% of your time. It's something that you're spending 70-80% of your time, of the time that you're awake. You're pretty much working. Even when you're not at work, you're working. Commute is work. Making lunch for work, thinking about, going to bed really early so you can wake up early in the morning and shower and do all of that stuff and get to work. That is still work that you need to do. Uh, And yeah, this is very tragic. The fact that the CEO is asking their employees to come back to the office 5 times a week. It's almost very sadistic, because 3 times a week was enough. Uh, yeah, so let's look at the CEO now. So I've read this. He doesn't have much. This Andy Jassy here, I read his whole wiki page. So he has an MBA from Harvard. Grew up in a very uh, privileged, life. He had a very privileged life. And the sad thing about all of this is that he was the head of AWS. So he made AWS what it is today. So in here it says in 2003 he and Jeff Bezos came up with the idea to create the cloud computing platform that became known as Amazon Web Services, which launched in 2006. Jassy headed it, and its team of 57 people. So this guy is very well aware of the cloud. He was the CEO of the cloud, and he knows the benefit of what the cloud is, what servers are, and how all of this stuff functions. So you wouldn't expect this guy to mandate have a 5 day a week return to the office mandate. You would not expect someone who's essentially an expert, who is the CEO of the cloud. AWS is the leader in the cloud sphere, right? So you wouldn't expect this guy to make that such a radical extremist mandate. Um, and one thing I want to say is that uh, life is currently difficult for most people, or for a lot of people, because of housing costs, groceries, and everything's very expensive right now. And one thing that we do have going for us is work from home. That makes life a little bit easier. And this guy right here, this pretty face, look at his face. Look at this guy. This guy right here, he wants to take that away from you. And if you are, a software developer, an engineer, a cloud architect, DevOps, data scientist, I would advise against using AWS. We should all just ditch AWS and move to Microsoft Azure. Microsoft does not have an extremist, radical return to office mandate. Microsoft still, they support the idea of working from home. So and as we go forward as human beings, as a society, we need to make life easier. We need to make choices, and we need to make decisions that makes life easy for human beings. And the decision that this guy has made makes life difficult for a lot of people, because these guys are setting a precedence. I know Walmart has a return to office policy 5 days a week. I know a bunch of investment firms and banking firms have that mandate 5 times a week returning to the office. And now Amazon is doing that. So this will inspire and motivate other larger corporations to do the same. And we cannot go back. We're not going back. As human beings, we need to move forward. And if you want to go back, you can go back. You can go back by yourself, but don't take humanity with you. And that's where I want to end this video, essentially.